Hey, welcome to Slice of Life, where faith meets the everyday. I'm James, and each podcast I invite someone to dive into the moments that shape us, challenge us, and draw us closer to Christ. From coffee shop conversations to carpool reflections, we're talking about real life and the spiritual truths that help us live it well. So grab your slice of time and let's grow together. Hey, welcome to a Slice of Life. I don't know where we're at. I don't know what our time is. I think we're in season 3. That's about all I know. Episode something. Right? A return home. No. So today I've got Stephanie with me today. It's a little crazy. It's a Monday morning. It's been tough. We got Easter coming up.
Yeah.
Right? So I know we're dating this episode. It probably won't even go out until after Easter.
Probably not.
But as we're shooting it, just FYI, so my brain is fried working. Obviously, I know I'm working on my doctorate. I'm stupid this year, doing 2 classes at one time.
Hey, me too.
Yeah, and just not the smartest thing I've ever done before. But I also want to finish.
Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I need to step it up a little bit. But yeah. So, hi, Stephanie.
Hi. How you doing?
All right. I'm lying.
I mean, that's a big cup of coffee you got this morning. I'm just saying.
I need more. I need more. I tell you what, I am blessed and highly favored. My folks at Dunkin', they love me.
That's good.
They now know my order, and I don't want to get them in trouble, but I get it free most of the time now, which is, I feel bad. I'm like, no, let me pay for it, and they're like, no, you're good. So
that's a nice love from the Father.
Well, it's kind of cool. I know this is not where we're going, but I talk a lot about the fact that we should be, as Christians, we should bring joy and love and peace and patience, right? That there should be something different about us. And I've said it before from the pulpit, and anytime I can, like when I go to a drive-through, like I tell them, I'm like, hey, good morning, which throws them off, or how you doing tonight? They're like, I want to take your order. And you kind of build that almost that repertoire with them and throw them off. And Dunkin', everywhere I've gone, I love Dunkin'. This pastor runs on Dunkin'. I should get a sponsorship.
You should.
Right?
I mean, with the amount that you drink it.
I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, look here, I'll even do the Dunkin' cup. Pastor runs on Dunkin'. Let's get it here.
Yeah, you got to get that. There you go.
Hold on. Product placement.
Yeah.
So my last church I pastored, we had a Dunkin' really close. And we finally got one here, too, that's really close. But it's gotten to the point where they know me. In fact, it's really funny. There's a Muslim. There were several that work there, and one of them, I won't say her name, but she calls me her friend.
Yeah,
and it just really blesses me. Like, hey, it's my friend. You could hear her in the background as I'm ordering. I'm like always the same thing. Like basically, hey, good morning, and then oh hi, and can I get an extra large coffee? And they're like, oh, and then all of a sudden in the background, I'll hear coconut and caramel. That's what I get, coconut caramel. They know it. Coconut caramel, come around, friend. And I pull in, and they'll just like. In fact, one of the girls today was like, hi, bye. It's just she flew by, like the other guy was handing me the coffee, and I just think, man, Christians should be the funnest people.
Yeah.
Which actually is a great segue
honestly,
into what we're talking about.
As you were talking, it's like this is a perfect segue.
Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit.
Right.
Wow. So that's what we're going to talk about today, right? What are we talking about?
We're talking about whether or not Christians can be fun people or not. Because I think culturally, the idea of how you have fun is not super Christian.
Yeah.
And we both spent time in the military.
Uh-huh.
Most military gatherings involve, not require, but have copious amounts of alcohol.
Yeah.
What
a cool word.
Copious. Thank you. Most
word of the day. You guys are being educated too.
They have, a lot of them smoke or do tobacco of some kind, and that becomes like a bonding thing where everyone's putting their dip in at the same time, or they're talking about it, or they're going out to the bars or clubs or whatever.
Yeah, it's normative.
It's normative,
right? And I know even for me as a Christian, and I joined the military. Man, as soon as I could, I went and was hanging out with guys. We went to tech school, Chanute Air Force Base, which is like Southern Illinois, Rantoul area, massive college right there,
Yeah.
right party area. I'm 19 and I'm drinking. You
Yeah.
know, like I'd never drank before. I'd never even thought about it before. I
Yeah.
was a good Christian guy, but because it's normative,
Right.
right?
And
It's just
that's
like
what you
that's
do.
what you do.
Yeah.
Hey, we finally get to leave base. We're gonna go to a bar and we're going to get drunk.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
it's all under this guise of we got to blow off some steam or we
Yeah.
got to do this, that. So how do we fit in
Yeah.
to that dynamic, like without having to fit in? You know
Well,
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
how do you do that?
I think that's it. Is we don't fit in.
Right.
But you said something earlier, which I like, is that we define fun in a different mindset. Like, what does it take for me to have fun?
Right. And I think if you have to drink to have fun, you're probably not actually having fun because you're acquiring something to make the thing fun and enjoyable.
Well, and I think it's taking the inhibitions down. It's changing how you see things, right? It's manipulating your reality to the point, and for some, they drink to forget, right? The sorrows of the day, the struggles, right? I think so. I think that's the struggle is like, when you think about like, how do we have fun? What does that look like? What do I need to do to have fun? I think that's where Christians and non-Christians begin to change.
Yeah.
In that, like, man, I can have a blast without anything that alters my mind.
Right.
Yeah. I don't have to do alcohol, drugs, smoking. I don't have to do any of that stuff just to have a blast.
Yeah.
And then, I think people would even question, well, then, what do you consider a blast? Because well, when we're drunk, we get all crazy and stuff. Well, guess what? Christians can be crazy too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We could do some incredibly, I wouldn't say dumb things, but
we
things
can cut loose,
things that you would think, oh, I can only do that if like driving backwards through a drive-through, right? Singing Christmas carols into a restaurant, like. I'm not saying you should do those things, but like we didn't need any drugs or alcohol to allow us to have that kind of fun.
Right.
Just doing crazy things. And I think that's the struggle. And we've got to, as Christians, I mean, that's who we're talking to.
Yeah.
We should be the funnest people at the party, because we're not being altered.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
this is just who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make a false front. I'm not trying to cover my pain and my sorrow, because there's I deal with my pain and sorrow differently.
Yeah.
I have a Savior that loves me, and so therefore my joy is not based on my emotions. My joy is not based on my circumstances. My joy is not based on how much alcohol I've had.
Right.
Right. Or I have to smoke some weed to calm down, or whatever it might be. It's not based on any of that. It's based on whose we are. And that, I might be going through a difficult time, but I know the end of the story.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of starts the conversation with can Christians have fun? I think it's almost mandated. Like the joy is there. You look at Jesus and the disciples, I think you see the fun in even in his moments as they're riding back and forth, that I just can't believe that they were all stoic individuals.
No. I picture them laughing at the table a lot,
having a good time, right? Yeah. And I think even some movies and Chosen's done a great job of this, but even the Passion of the Christ, one of my favorite parts of that, if you haven't seen that, Mel Gibson, it's fairly old now. But Jesus is like messing around with his mom, like playing a prank on her, and I'm like, that is something so foreign to like a lot of people, because you see the stoic Jesus, you see the, the art that Jesus is just, this holy, and he is, but almost departed from humanity,
But he was fully human.
He was fully human.
Which means he's going to have a sense of humor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think,
and if you read anything, if you read what he says, Jesus is funny. There's some things that he says are if you obviously there's a language barrier for most of us, or all of us, basically, because we don't speak Hebrew and Greek, and but even in the English language, if you understand irony and you understand kind of what he's doing, he's messing with people.
Yeah.
Right. He's kind of got that feel to it, which is awesome to see.
And some of what he says too is like almost tongue in cheek. When it's like a little bit sarcastic at times is how you can read the Gospels. And I think, like, when I think about how the Spirit works in my life, the Spirit is sarcastic to me and goofy to me. And like Jason and I were just so funny. Just last night we were talking about like strategizing. How are we going to get this done? How are we going to get that done? And I'm like, man, I just don't know how we're going to do it all. And I'm making some no bakes and I'm like, oh, I'm almost out of oatmeal. And I measure my oatmeal and I have exactly 3 cups of oatmeal.
Yeah.
I had exactly the amount that I need. And I just started laughing because I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you provided. You always provide. You always give me enough. And Jason goes, we have a whole other thing in the pantry too. Like, okay, I get it. And like most people be like, well, you just did your grocery shopping, right?
Yeah.
But I see that as like, dude, I got your back. How many times do we got to go over this? So when I think about how the Spirit interacts in my life, how could Jesus not be funny?
Right.
And that's the example we're supposed to follow.
Yeah.
How could he not have a good time with people?
Yeah.
And tease people and and have fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know, going back to the military thing, I also got into the culture of drinking in the military, and I'm out of it now. And this past week I went on a exercise, and it was the first time I was in a military environment where they were drinking and I was not.
Yeah.
And I was drinking my Shirley Temple and loving it. And we're like, oh, you need a drink? I'm like, no, I don't drink.
Yeah.
And the reaction people had between I don't drink and I'm sober was totally different. And that cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because I'm sober, people are like, oh, that's awesome. But I don't drink is, oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't know how to handle that one.
Right.
And I don't know. I think that's a really funny dynamic. Different.
Almost like you're an outcast at that point.
Yeah.
You know, because therefore you're judging those that are drinking.
Yeah.
Like you come into, and that's funny. You know, I think back when we were living in Washington, I was an associate pastor there, but I played a lot of softball. I mean, a lot of softball. And I was on a team that was really good. And then I was on a team that was really bad. That was the fun one, right?
That always is a more fun team.
And that was, you know, because the other one was competition,
right?
You know, and we would go to the bar, right? And they know I'm a pastor, they know I'm a Christian, and it really messed them up when I first would go with them, because that was like the thing they would do afterwards. And I'd go and they knew I wouldn't stay long. Yeah. But I would have a Coke, and I'd make sure I had a can of Coke. You know, I wanted everyone to know, right?
So there'd be no confusion.
Right, because again, you know, I think that what we have to understand, and what I'm talking about is, you know, Scriptures just says that don't lead anybody into sin.
Right.
Right. And so they see Pastor James walk into a bar, you know, and he's drinking something. Yeah. You know, they don't know what it is.
Right.
Well, if I'm drinking from a can of Coke, they know it's Coke, right? More than likely, you know, unless I'm really trying to hide out. But I remember when we first started going, that it was the same thing. They're like, you know, they were worried. My softball buddies were worried about what I was going to say about them. Yeah. And a couple weeks after we first started doing this thing, they started saying to me like this idea that, you know, hey, you're really not judging us. Yeah. You know, and yet you're having just as much fun as we are. Yeah. You know, we're talking about the game and what happened and the mistakes that we made, or, you know, the mistakes the other team made. We're kind of talking about celebrating or bemoaning what happened. Right. You know, we're engaging in that, and it was surprising to them that I could interact on their level, let's say their level, right? You know, without drinking. Yeah. And also at the same time not judging.
What does that look like, though? Is it what we say? Is it how we act? Like, how do we go to a bar with our friends as Christians, not drinking, but also giving comfort to them almost, or like giving them the space to be where they're at without condemning? What does that sound like? What
well, I think a couple things I want to say right off the bat is that, man, you better be really strong in your faith to go into a bar. Okay. I don't think most Christians should ever go into a bar. Okay. Honestly, there's just a lot going on. And the reason I went in the bar, I was on a mission. I was going to save all of them. That was my mission. Right. You know, and I saved probably, or, led 5, 6 of them to Christ,
Okay.
baptized them. Right.
Oh.
I mean, so really, really cool. And I just I knew that, God had led me to do that. It was nothing. In fact, I'd actually talked to my lead pastor.
Yeah.
Right. I was small groups assimilation pastor of this church. And I talked to him and said, hey, I'm on mission, man. I just feel like God has told me to do this. And so this is what it's going to look like. And these are the parameters I'm putting in. So I was on mission. I didn't go to the bar just to go to the bar.
Okay. I think that's a good distinction.
I think people need to understand that. Right. So, but I think that the context of what I did in those moments can be utilized anywhere.
Okay.
Whether it's just going out to dinner, going to a party, going to anything, and when I say party, I'm not thinking like a rave or a like that kind of. I'm talking about like you're going to a housewarming party, those type of things, right? Because they're the ones that there's no reason to be there, right? If people are just going there to get drunk, you should not be in that environment. But I think we look at that and go, okay, how am I going to act? Well, I'm going to act like I normally would act.
Okay.
And I think that's the distinction.
Okay.
I'm looking and I'm not saying things to them like, oh, you're drinking another drink, those type of, we're just having conversation. We're having a good time. I'm paying attention to my mannerisms, my how I look at people, right? All those things, because what I don't want to do, because most of the world knows us as judgy, right? That's the one thing I don't want to do,
right?
Is I don't want to judge, and I think interacting with them on, and I said their level, this idea, which doesn't mean that I'm cussing, doesn't mean I'm telling dirty jokes, it doesn't mean any of those things that are non-Christian. I'm just speaking my language.
Yeah.
And the individuals that I'm with begin to realize that, hey, he can actually tell a joke without a bad word,
right.
like
you can use more than 4 letters at a time.
Yeah. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I think looking at the situation and looking at the individuals and going, okay, I know who I am. I know what I believe in.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to compromise who I am or what I believe in. But at the same time, I'm not going to thrust it on you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficult thing. And even when I hear I'm trying to lead them to Christ, I look for those opportunities when they presented themselves to talk about Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not manufacturing them. You're letting them come up organically. Yeah.
And as our conversations would happen, that would happen, right?
Yeah.
They would most of the time they would ask me questions or something about it, right? But during my conversation, they're talking about their family life. I'm talking about my family life. They're talking about their job. I'm talking about my job. I actually worked a secular job as well, right? I'm talking about what we did on the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what I did on the weekend, right? So the distinction there really was I just wasn't drinking.
Yeah.
But we begin to see each other, or at least let me put it another way. They began to see me as not someone who's judging them for their actions.
Right.
And which was really interesting because they began to change their actions around me, right? The language started to go down.
Yeah.
Right. And I never once reacted. I was never that guy that say, hey, stop dropping the F-bomb.
Right.
Or even reacting to it. I'd been in the military, so I'd heard enough language.
You've heard it all, yeah.
Right? So it didn't, I would say it bothered me. I didn't like it, but I didn't react to it,
Yeah.
And it was so funny to watch so many of them begin to change, and even in their drinking habits. I felt like, we'd go in and we'd be there for a couple minutes and they're already on their second or third beer.
Yeah.
And possibly had done a couple shots already. And then that began to lower over time. Not everybody, but several of them. In fact, most of the ones that I was able to lead to Christ, you could see them, this change, not because I had said anything, but I think it's because they saw something different in me.
Yeah.
And realized he's having as much fun as we are drinking that Coke.
Right.
And we're on our third or fourth beer already.
Maybe I don't need this either.
Yeah. Dropping all that money, to make me feel good.
Yeah.
And I think, as Christians, when we begin to go, okay, I can go into an environment if I'm strong enough, right? If I'm mature enough in my Christianity, I can go into some darker areas. We're called to go into darker areas and bring light.
Yeah.
I think we've got to be really cognizant of ourselves, that whether we're mature enough or not to handle those situations, whatever those situations are, to know that, like for me, I was good going in the bar, right? But not everybody is.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we have friends that we probably shouldn't hang around with, because they'll, in fact, I had a friend, I still have a friend, I'd say he was my best friend. He's like my brother throughout high school. I knew early on, as I kind of came back to Christ, I couldn't hang out with that guy.
Yeah.
As much as I loved him, I just knew he would pull me into his world. Yeah. I was not strong enough. So I think we have to pay attention to that.
Was that a conversation you had with him, or was it just a slow dissolve?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it's really interesting. Even today, we are super close, but we don't talk.
I got you.
We went through so many hard life times together, and just had such a relationship. But we've discussed, just we're in two different worlds still.
Yeah.
And like when I went to his wedding, he just got married not too long ago. Maybe it's been forever now, but it feels like it was just not too long ago. And we hung out for the day, and you would have, if in fact his fiance, who I had not really even met, she was like, you guys sound like you've talked every single day,
right,
for years. Yeah. When's the last time you were together? Well, last time we were together, we were in Little Rock. I don't even live in Little Rock. It just happened to be I was in Little Rock on business, and he was in Little Rock on business. He lives in Oregon. I live now in Ohio. And she just was absolutely shocked because of our relationship. But we have this deep love for one another, but we also understand we're in two different worlds.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really a conversation other than that understanding that we love each other beyond measure. We're brothers, right?
Yeah.
But because we're in two different worlds,
there's going to be,
there's going to be moments that we just can't, or won't,
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not mature enough to hang out with him at this point. It's just, I think the relationship has gotten to the point where the things I want to do are not the things that he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which I think is hard when you have to make that realization of like, you don't have the same bond that you wished that you could have with that person. And that's why having Christian friends and having people who are on the same place or on the same journey that you're on is so important.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be the ones who are inviting you to go someplace you shouldn't be.
Right.
But what does it look like to tell someone you can't go? Like if someone's saying, hey, we're going to go to this club or whatever, just come and dance, just come and hang out, just come and watch us, just come and, hey, BRDD.
Right.
What does it look like to say no, but to say that with grace and respect, to where we're not judgy and stuffy and boring and all of those things people love to use?
It's pretty simple. You look at him and say, you are dying and going to hell, you heathens.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to make us a ton of friends.
Oh, yeah, right.
I
right
think that was in the Bible, yeah.
It's somewhere
James
somewhere
15,
in the Bible.
Maybe?
That's it. There's not a James 15. I think it's an interesting question, but here's the deal. If you have friends that you can't be honest and open with,
are they your friends?
Well, thank you. Well,
Got you.
Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are they your friends? I heard that somewhere. I mean, let's just be honest. And I think that's the struggle. If I can't tell my friend how I feel, if I can't tell my friend why, that I'm just not comfortable in that environment.
Yeah.
Do I really want them around? Yeah. I think I've shared this story before. And it's interesting because, I worked corporate job for a lot of years, and I had a gentleman that we worked really close together, and we would work on same projects together. We spent a lot of time together. He lived in Dallas. I lived in Chicago at the time, and we'd hook up in Pittsburgh, which is our headquarters. Okay. Right. We spent a lot of time together. He's homosexual, and he knew my beliefs, you know, and but there was never a moment that there was a problem, right? Yeah. And so one day, I mean, I wouldn't call him quote unquote my friend, right? Although I love the guy to death, right? But you just wouldn't hang out. And two things I wanted to share about that story is, you know, one day we were sitting down at dinner, and it was just him and I. We just got through a major project, and we're just kind of trying to just relax. Those days were really difficult. We had long hours. We had a what we call the war room on one floor of the headquarters that we had. And there was, basically lunch is brought in, you had breakfast early in the morning, you had lunch brought in, and then dinner was like at 9:00 at night. And you just kind of repeated, rinse and repeat, and we were sitting down, and he was going through some difficult stuff. And he looked at me, he said, James, I know you think I'm a sinner.
Okay.
Right. But he says, you never treat me different. He goes, you're the first Christian I've ever talked to that just treats me like I am who I am. And yet I know your belief. I know that you think my lifestyle is wrong. But he said, I get nothing but love from you. I get nothing but we're just hanging out. And when I talk about he calls his husband, right? You don't even blink an eye. Yeah. You ask me how he's doing. He said, it's just so odd to me because I've never experienced that before, so he goes on in that conversation, and then he has a Christmas party every year, a massive Christmas party. And he goes, I don't invite you to that Christmas party because it's not the environment that you'd want to be in.
Right.
You know that, right? Yeah. He goes, you're invited. You have an open invitation. You can come to my home anytime you want to. And so when you see the Christmas pictures and all that stuff that we're doing, and you see a couple of the other people from our office that are there, he said, just know I don't invite you because I know you wouldn't be comfortable in that environment.
It's like out of respect.
Because of our lifestyle. Yeah. Right. And wow, what a great friend. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like he's a great friend. And again, this is a guy I worked with.
Yeah.
So if a guy I worked with could know me so well, again, we live in two different worlds, right? He's Dallas, I'm in Chicago, right? We I think that year, was it 2010? I spent 140 nights in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Just one hotel. I stayed in another hotel for some time as well. So you can kind of imagine he was probably there most of the time with me, right? So we did spend a whole lot of time together. But so not a guy I hang out with every weekend, not a guy like that I've grown up with, none of those things. But through the relationship of work and the trials that we went through together, for him to have that much respect for me, to go, to be honest with me, to be open with me, then man, if you can't do that with a true friend, they're not your friend.
So how do you think he knew you disagreed with his lifestyle then?
Well, we had talked about it.
Okay.
Right.
And at one point you just said
Well, yeah. And because that was the thing, we were very open. I mean, right. I'm very open about what I believe, even in the work environment, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
People think like you've got, you just be who you are. Right. And so as just through conversations, it wasn't ever a point where I said, you are a sinner,
right.
that but through conversation, we had enough conversation about beliefs and about things. He was raised Catholic. And so, right. So we had those conversations over the time where he just knew.
He knew. Yeah.
Right. Kind of where I stood on things.
Yeah.
And how it worked. And again, I think that story to me is so cool. Number one, it blessed me, because of how he acted towards me, but because at least my light was shining so bright,
he knew.
that he would know. and still feel the love.
Yeah.
Right. Not the condemnation, not the, the damnation of so many,
Right.
um, it's a thing that we should be called to. And that's the thing. It's like, so, we kind of go, even that relationship, man, we had fun.
Mm-hmm.
We had a blast, right? We would manage teams. Sometimes we have 10, 15 people that we'd have to manage. I'd have to drive a bus, right? I was a bus driver. They'd be like, home, James, because I'd take everyone to
Right.
dinners and everything else. As we travel around the country sometimes together, it was the same thing. But we would just have a blast.
Yeah.
And so that's work. It's like, that's, in the work environment. And at one point, he got yelled at. He was the senior of the group, so I was his assistant most of the time. And their bar bill got really outrageous. So they got cut off. They're like, no more, right? So it wasn't like we were just going to do these we go to dinner and just go home, go back to the hotel, right?
Yeah.
It was a lot of communal time with the team, and just having a good time.
Yeah.
And just having a blast. So if I can have that environment in a work environment, where this group of people is okay drinking in front of me and laughing and having a good time, and they enjoy me being around.
Yeah.
Because there's those nights that I'm like, I'm an introvert. So like there's nights I'm like, I need a break. And they're like, no, come on, James, come on.
Yeah, they want you there. You're not the stuff
hang out
you
with
want.
us. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, again, obviously, I just keep saying it because you need to realize, are you strong enough? Are you mature enough to handle that? And if you are, again, the difference is just in what you're not drinking and what you're not saying.
Yeah.
What you're not, the things that you're not engaging in, the gossip that you're not engaging in, all the other things. And you begin to set a standard.
Yeah.
And those that are around you that are truly your friends or that truly care about you, they're going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of rounds all the way back down to if they have a problem with your beliefs, they're the problem. You're not the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we try to compromise that because I want to be, relatable, and I don't want people to think, poorly of me or, whatever your excuse might be. And that's not how we're supposed to act.
Right.
I'm going to be as much fun as I can be, but that's just because who I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to joke. I'm going to have a good time. And I'm going to brag on our church for a second. When we go out and work with other organizations, they love us. They absolutely, we just did the Dream Center and we hadn't been for months. And man, the director, he came out and met us in the parking lot. I'm so glad you guys are here.
That's
The other
awesome.
people saw us and they're like, you guys have so much fun. In fact, I remember one time, this one lady looked at me and was like, you guys are a blast, and she goes, we just don't know what's coming out of your mouth at some point because I often joke our church's love language is sarcasm.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're just having a good time.
Yeah.
And we're working hard, having a good time. And that's what I think Christians should be, though.
Yeah.
I should work harder than anybody because I know who I'm working for. I'm working for God. And I should have much fun, if not more fun than everybody.
Right.
Right. Because I know who controls everything. So
There's
why can't I have a good time?
Yeah.
In all these situations and goof off and act a weird. And some of you probably listening today are like, you've met way too many stuffy Christians.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for those stuffy Christians. I don't know where they got that from.
When they're missing out on the joy of life.
Yeah. Wesley, John Wesley, if you don't know John Wesley, hopefully you know who John Wesley is, but if you don't, right, great theologian, really interesting story, British, comes to America, 17th century, 18th century, he evangelizes in Georgia, and not the Georgia we think of today,
Right.
but the actual Indian, like Native American Georgia.
Yeah.
Right? He was going to those, right? And so through the Methodist, what they call the Methodist movement, one of the things that he saw within the Church of England that he didn't like was the lack of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right? The lack of joy.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Wesley is Wesley didn't want to create a new church. He was like everything he could to keep everybody within the Church of England.
Right.
Right. But he said, I see something wrong in the Church of England, several things wrong. But one of them is they've lost their joy. They've lost their passion.
Would you say they've lost their shout?
They've lost their shout. Oh, yeah. If you got, yeah. That's an inside. That's an inside joke.
Too well, sorry.
Right? No, it's all right.
Go back and watch a sermon.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, exactly. But yeah. That's a great way to put it. They lost their shout.
Yeah.
Right. And he goes, man, we've got to find that joy of God for God again, and that joy for our life, that enthusiasm. And so what he ends up doing is he starts not even ordaining, but training preachers, but not just preachers, not like pastors in a church, evangelists. Okay. And they become called Methodist preachers. And a Methodist, that was a name thrust upon them because they had a method for their preaching.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So they became Methodists. And he goes, I want to train people that are so passionate about God and have so much fun, and have so much enthusiasm, joy, that all they can do is go out into the world and preach. Yeah. Right? And he goes, and I want him to bring them back to the Church of England. It's an interesting study. But I say all that because he looked at the joy, and in today's world, man, if we don't have joy, we don't have our shouts. What are we doing?
What's the point?
If God really is God, if God absolutely loves me beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? If I was formed by him, made by him, and he still loves me, even though he knows everything about me, I have every right to be as joyful as possible.
Yeah.
Who cares if your mom was bad, or your dad was bad, or your brothers were bad, or, sisters, your life was horrible, all that other stuff, right? All these. The creator of the universe knows me by name, loves me beyond all imagination. That brings a lot of joy into me.
Yeah.
Right?
Or it should.
It should.
It should.
And so many don't. And I shared even yesterday in my sermon, the Hobbit movie. At one point, Bilbo is, if you don't know the Hobbit, I'm sorry. But he's got the dwarves that come into his home. He's really frustrated. It's like the picture of a church person. Right, Bilbo Baggins, and he's frustrated that these dwarves are in there. Right, they're eating his food. And he's grumpy. He's like, and they want him to go on this adventure with them, and he's like, no, I like my doilies. I like my home. I like my hobbit hole. I like to be here. I want to be grumpy. And then he wakes up, and something just spurs into him. And he runs out with the contract. He had signed this contract, or this contract, and he runs out with it. And this guy sees him, another halfling, right? Sees him and goes, "Hey, Bilbo, where are you going?" And he goes, "I'm going on to an adventure." Super excited, and I'm like, man, that should be every Christian.
Yeah.
Right. That should be all of us. Like, man, I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah.
That means that. Why can't I have fun? Well, I can have fun because I'm going on an adventure.
Everything's an adventure.
Yeah. It should be.
Yeah.
It should be. If I really believe that God is with me, right, and that God is for me, and that the Holy Spirit will guide me and lead me and help instruct things and move things in the right way, kind of like he did to start this podcast, right?
Yeah, right.
He just brought a memory or a thought into my brain that brings me into this moment kind of an unscripted, like, I don't know how we're going to get in this conversation, and we're there before we even know it, right? I thought we were talking about something totally different. That's who we should be. And yet, how many Christians do you know, and how many Christians do you guys know, that you're grumpy, like, resting a frown face, right? Like,
yeah.
where's the joy of the Lord? The joy of the Lord is your strength,
Yeah.
right? That his mercies are new every single day. That means I got to wake up in the morning and I got new mercies.
Yeah.
His grace is sufficient for me. It means I've got plenty of grace to deal with the day and
to give.
Right.
And to give.
But we don't have joy.
Yeah.
We're not the funnest people around.
I mean, that's the second fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe they are put in an order for a reason.
Yeah. I'd agree.
So if you don't have joy,
yeah,
you stopped real early in that list.
Well, even Paul writes later on, it says, love, joy, and faith, right? He said, but the greatest of these is love. But he even highlights those, those is so critical to how we are. Joy should be the thing. And as he writes to the church of Philippi when he's in prison, he's writing about joy. He says, I've got joy in prison.
Yeah.
The book of Philippians, for those of you that maybe don't understand Philippi, right? It is written while Paul is in prison, and he's writing to Christians who are actually under persecution, not like us. We're not under persecution, that are being arrested. They're losing their livelihood, all this other stuff. And he's telling them to have joy.
It's a bold statement.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bold statement.
And the early church was known for that. And then, what you've seen throughout the years, if you follow church history or not, which most people don't, they have no idea about church history, but it's important. You see this ebb and flow, and then you see every time that the church becomes sour, they've lost their shout. There's a group of people that find their shout again, and it radically transforms that community.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because people look and go, well, why do they have joy?
I want to have that.
Why do they have a hope? Why do they have, right? And I think, should we have fun? Man, we should have a blast.
We should have the most fun.
We, and this church is such a great example of that. I know I'm bragging on it again, but man, last Christmas, I was gone for a little bit. I walk in, my whole office is wrapped. I mean, they wrap books, they wrap my computer, my mouse, they wrapped, everything was wrapped.
Have you unwrapped everything?
No, I still haven't. I got some stuff there. It was a blast, right? We're just having a good time. Why can't we have that much fun? We play ping pong here, right? And we're just laughing and just having a good time.
And smack talking. There is definitely smack
talking. Oh, yeah.
Happening.
Yeah. I mean,
to be clear.
In absolute love, though.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we don't call anybody dumb or anything, but, well, maybe.
I mean.
Yeah.
But in love.
Yeah, in love. Yeah.
I mean, Laura and I were just, I can't remember how long, maybe on the first, I think it was, we were talking, and I said, you know what I love? Is I love to love through hate.
Yeah.
Like, I love to love through harassing you. And like, I miss that being in the military environment. That's how you knew who liked you and who was your friend, was who's mean to you.
Yeah.
Kind of like, dipping the girl's hair. And
oh, yeah, completely.
It's the same thing, but that's how I know you love me. It's because you're going to go out of your way to mess with me a little bit.
Yeah, if you hang out with me long enough, you're going to find out really quickly if I like you or not. Yeah. And I've said it multiple times to people. I'm only picking on you because I like you. If I don't pick on you,
it's a problem.
I don't like you.
Yeah.
Right? And the picking, obviously, again, it's not harmful or hurtful, or hopefully it's not, really trying to be cautious, obviously. And I do have to watch myself sometimes because I people don't think of a pastor as that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think it's an interesting story. So on Saturday, I did a wedding. Half the family were, and I'm not picking on Catholics, but half of them were Catholics. Yeah. The other half were, I don't know what they were, right? Some atheists or non-believers, we'll call them non-believers. I don't know what their belief system is, And I've had this happen so many times, even in my last church where I was in a large Catholic community. Mm-hmm. But I'm doing the wedding, and I love doing weddings. So if you want me to do your wedding, I'll do it. But I'm going to drop jokes.
Yeah.
That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And I the first joke I dropped, almost nobody laughed, but those that already knew me.
Right. Because they probably expected it a little bit.
It's unexpected to everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, wait, we're going to a wedding and it's stoic. We're going to, and not that all Catholics are stoic. I'm not saying that, but that's kind of a normative in that world. Like if you're going to do the liturgy, you're going to do this order of service, everything's got to kind of have its place. And I'm not downgrading what they do. I think what Catholics do is gorgeous.
There's beauty.
Right. It's just absolutely meaningful. My style, though, it's not that.
Yeah.
I have an order. I'm very ordered. If you ever going to hang out with me, you're going to see a lot of order in what I do. But in that order, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
We're going to have. And so I remember the first joke I did, and it was funny. I know it was funny, right? I said it.
Are you sure?
Oh, it was funny. Well, we were talking about love, right? And I was talking about love is a choice. It's an action. It's not emotion. And so I'm like, so in the morning when you wake up and you go to kiss her and she's got that horrible morning breath, that's funny. That's funny in the middle of this serious moment, right? You're gonna love her anyways, But then by the third or fourth joke, they were with me.
Yeah,
right? I could hear the crowd because I actually do it a little different, where my back's to the crowd, so they can see the husband and wife, their face, right?
Yeah.
So I can't see them, but I'm hearing them now, right? Yeah. Now they're laughing. Now they're with me like, okay, there's going to be a joke coming at some point. Right. That's just who I am. As I preach, that's just kind of who I am. And I think that whole idea that we shouldn't be too serious about who we are, about what we're doing, right? God's got a sense of humor. We need to have a sense of humor. And I think looking at what we do and how we interact with people, right, needs to bring we need to bring joy in.
Yeah.
When we have the opportunity. And so therefore it's okay. And I would really question people to look at their life and go, man, when's the last time you laughed?
Yeah.
And
like that deep, full body crying.
Just that,
if you're not, you need to go to a game night or something. Get a bunch of board games out one night.
Something. Yeah, and have a good time. And I think we have to break sometimes out of that. And I think about Julia, who's a kind of a new Christian. We did a podcast with her last year. We're going to do one with her, just kind of a follow up. And that was one of the things she said. Is like she knows Christians is this list of do's and don'ts. Legalistic law kind of thing. And she's like, I'm just trying to figure out, what does it mean to be a Christian? And that, that breaks my heart, because that's what most people think, right? Even a lot of Christians think that, right? That man, it's this list of stuff I can or cannot do. I can't drink. I drank. I don't want to anymore. I remember the stupidity of those moments, the stuff of I remember throwing up on the bus going back to the base. I mean, it's like that wasn't fun. The end of that wasn't fun.
There was
I had a good time, but the end. Now I can have just as much fun without the throwing up on the bus.
Oh yeah, more fun.
Right?
More fun.
Feeling bad for that bus driver. And I think when we think of Christianity in this stoic moment, we've missed it. If we look at Wesley and go, man, he just was trying to get the Church of England to have joy again, in our own lives, to have that joy again. What will it take for you to, and what I've been talking to this church about is that, to get our shout back. That shout is a shout of victory. That shout is a shout of joy. It's that praise.
Yeah.
Praise is not silent. And sitting back and worshiping God, sitting back, right? And just kind of like in the motions of singing a song and never feeling anything. And I'm not about emotion. That's not who I am. But at the same point, you feel it. It's just like a laugh. You feel it. You feel that joy. There's that smile, or Bilbo Baggins. I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah.
Complete joy at that moment. Now his joy got into a lot of frustration, and you follow the rest of his story. It's an analogy of a Christian faith, the Christian walk, right? As we take down the enemy, right? There's loss, there's pain, there's frustration. there's moments that we have to make tough decisions. You know, maybe one day we do a podcast just on the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
I'm only halfway through the second movie.
Man, well the books are even greater. But you know, and they're actually written by Christians, meant to help explain Christianity.
Right.
You know, the walk. So the Hobbit's such a great story to read as a Christian. Yeah. Oh man, we can get so locked in our little world, our comfortable world, and lose all of our joy. We'll just regain that joy again, even in the face of the struggle.
Yeah. I think too, part of being a Christian having fun is confidence. That we have to have confidence in who we are and who God has called us to be and where God has put us.
Yeah.
And I think the secular world misses that confidence, and they don't have confidence enough in who they are.
That's good.
To be funny without blaming it on the alcohol, or to make those, you know, like do whatever you're doing, and they need to hide behind inebriation almost.
Yeah.
Because, and like I'm picking on drinking a lot, but that's just because it's right there, and it's
an easy one. It's an easy one.
It's in most social gatherings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Secularly. And I think as a Christian, though, you can be like, no, I have confidence in who I am. Why would I need to alter who I am?
Right.
I like who I am. I was made by a creator who did this on purpose.
Yeah.
Why would I change any of
that?
We have picked on drinking a lot too. So I wanted to ask, you said you only go into a bar if you're strong and confident and on like the missional mindset, right?
Yeah.
Do you extend that to casinos as well?
Why are you in a casino? That'd be my question.
Okay.
Right. So you're really picking on something. Because I think you gotta wonder about gambling.
Yeah.
Right.
It's because I've had friends be like, well, you can just come.
Right.
You can just come and hang out.
Yeah.
You know, just come watch us gamble. I'm like, well, that sounds boring.
That number one would be very, very boring. So is gambling a sin? Let's go there. Let's go. Is drinking a sin? No, drinking is not a sin. Okay. Getting drunk is a sin. That's what it tells us. Right. Paul writes to Timothy, hey, have a little bit of wine, a little bit of wine with dinner. Right.
Medicinally, though.
Yeah. Right. There's a purpose behind, and again, we look at their world, you know, alcohol was like safer to drink than water.
Right.
You know, so, right. They didn't have the purification stuff that we have now. Right. So, I know that one's hard for Christians because you've got some Christians that, hey, drinking's fine. Church of God, our stance is don't drink.
Yeah.
Not that it's a sin, but because of what it can lead to.
Yeah.
And then it can lead other people into drinking that don't have that ability. Because I could have a drink. I could drink one drink and be fine.
Right.
Right. Maybe not now because I haven't drank forever. So maybe it would mess me up, right? Depending on how strong the drink is. Right. But what would my one drink do to someone else if they saw me drinking? Would it, right? We're told to watch what we do that doesn't lead other people into sin. You know, that's a whole nother conversation. So I won't go any farther than that. Gambling, the same thing. Is gambling a sin? Well, is going to the movies a sin? Is any kind of entertainment a sin? What's the sin within the gambling world, in Pastor James's opinion, is that I look at it as a supplier,
right?
A provider.
You're replacing gyro.
Like I need money, right? And I'm looking at it and you know, so if I go and I take $20 and I go, where can I go for $20 anymore? But if I go somewhere for 20, you know, with 20,
scratch off
$20 bucks, right? Well, no, I'm just thinking like go entertainment movies.
Oh, okay.
I go to the movies for $20
Yeah.
to spend $20 on the movies, right? And I'm not watching a Christian movie. I'm just watching a movie.
Yeah.
You know, how is that any different than if I go into a casino and spend $20, right? For 2 hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I kind of look at that and say, okay, I can't really say one is worse than the other type concept. Now, if I go in and all of a sudden I spent I throw $20 on the tables, right, or the roulettes or scratchers or whatever it is, what's my emotional state afterwards?
Yeah.
Has it messed with me? Right.
I mean, probably disappointment.
Am I now depressed?
Yeah.
Or am I like, oh man, I need another $20?
Yeah.
Gambling is so addictive. So yeah, I would say it's the same thing. Any of those environments where I realize it's going to put me into an environment that I can't handle as a Christian,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be in that environment until I can handle it. And then I've got to ask myself, why am I there?
Yeah.
Am I going to the bar to hang out with the guys, or am I going to the bar to evangelize the guys?
Yeah.
Right? To let them see me because, they've seen something so different before, right? And I want them to see what I think a Christian should look like and act like and talk like, right? Am I going for that reason? I think casinos, those are ones that they're more like more likely you're not going to evangelize anybody in casino,
right?
Because they're probably jumping around. Maybe they're on the same slots, right? Put me on the penny slots, man. I'll shine there, But I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves, because there's other environments, the same thing that we really have to look and go, okay, am I mature enough to stay with what I believe,
right,
and will I shine the correct light?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things we've got to be cautious of is that we don't condone the actions of others.
Yeah.
Right. So like I shared my bar story. I left well before they got drunk.
Yeah.
They knew I was there for a time. And so I don't know if they did get drunk, but I believe they did.
Right.
They're on their second or third beer. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. And they kind of knew that, like, I'm not here to hang out with drunk people. Right. You guys are sober now, let's talk. We'll have a good time. So they knew I was not condoning their getting drunk.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the same thing. So if I go hang out with some people in the casino, am I condoning their gambling? Well, yeah. I mean,
you're there.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, if they're really good friends, they're not going to want me at the casino with them.
Right.
Because they're especially those that we know that, and so many are addicted to gambling, or have an unhealthy relationship with gambling. Let's put it that way. People say, I'm not addicted to gambling. Well,
it sure ain't healthy.
Yeah, right. And so I think that's one of those questions we've got to answer for ourselves is, again, will this shine a good light on Jesus?
Yeah.
Right. And am I strong enough to be shining in this environment?
Okay.
Right. And if I am, then again, then I go and I'm like, and did I actually shine my light in that environment, or did I do anything? What was the good of that purpose, or of that plan? Right. And so I think it's a struggle, but it's only a struggle if they're really your friends. Because again, I think it all rolls back to, like, can you have non-Christian friends? Yes, you sure can.
Yeah.
You should.
Otherwise,
right?
What are you doing?
You should,
Yeah.
because you can't evangelize people that you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But are you actually evangelizing, or are they evangelizing you?
Yeah. Because it does go both ways. They just don't say it.
It's the missional dating concept, this idea that you shouldn't date someone who's not a Christian. Why? Because most of the time what you see is you fall away from God. You don't get closer to God. Yeah. Because you've got somebody trying to pull you out of the environment.
Yeah. And I think, like, my parents are a success story on missional dating, and it's the only success story I know.
Yeah.
But it's only because my dad's heart was already turning towards God.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He was already curious. He already wanted to know. He wanted to. My mom said, well, I can't go out with you on Sunday morning. Yeah. I'm at church. He said, well, I'd love to go to your church.
Yeah.
And that's the only time that it works, is when the person who is not a Christian is already yearning and leaning and wanting to.
Yeah, and willing to. And I think so often what we see is the opposite, right? Is that unwillingness to, or like, or not saying you can't, you can go ahead and go to church, but I'm just not going with you. Right. I think there's a struggle there, but again, you got to be cautious. Even in that scenario, I have so many where the people started coming to the church, and then before long they were both gone. It's like, what happened to you? So I think, in all, I just hope people have fun. As Christians, we should have as much fun as everybody else, and our bill will be a lot cheaper because we won't be paying. It's like going to a football game, and I see these guys, man, they're dropping $10-$12 on a a beer, right? A bottle of beer, and they're doing it multiple times.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
adds up.
and I'm like, okay, I paid $5 for my Coke, which
Yeah.
is expensive, but I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. But yeah, I think we should have fun. Right? Have a good time. Enjoy life. Enjoy the presence of God, and know that, again, if God is for you, right, then nothing else is against you. It can't destroy you, right? And so in those moments of joy, finding your friends, your Christian friends as well. You should, find those moments where you're hanging out with other Christians, kind of letting everything just go and just enjoying the conversation, but at the same point being able to be a light into the world. I think we could shake this world up if the church could have more fun.
I think that's
right. And I think we would actually have people drawn back to the church like the early church did, and every church after that, every group of individuals after that said, okay, I got to find the joy of the Lord one more time. So I hope this has been an interesting conversation for you. If you got a frowny face right now, turn it upside down. Go find some joy and find God. If you find God, you're going to find joy in those moments. So be blessed. If you have any comments, thoughts, hey, let us know what we can talk about as well as we kind of move forward. It's this idea of, again, slice of life. It's just, how do I live as a Christian in today's world? Be blessed, and we'll talk to you soon.